Avery, and welcome back to Grandma's Story Room. We've got to hear that story about Grandpa and the Black Panther. So are you ready?
Your grandpa went to town one day and was late starting home. It was dark when he came riding his horse through the big woods, so dark that he could hardly see the road. And when he heard a panther scream, he was frightened, for he had no gun.
How does a panther scream? Laura asked.
Like a woman, said Pa, like this. Then he screamed,
and I'm not going to scream, but you can scream. Then he screamed so that Laura and Mary shivered with terror, and Ma jumped in her chair and she said, "Mercy, Charles!" But Laura and Mary loved to be scared like that. The horse, with Grandpa on him, ran fast, for the horse was frightened too. But it could not get away from the panther, and the panther followed through the dark woods, and it was a hungry panther, and it came as fast as the horse could run. Let's make horse running noises. That horse was running so fast, so it screamed now on this side of the road, and it screamed on that side of the road, and it was always close behind, and Grandpa leaned forward in the saddle, and he urged the horse to go faster, and the horse was running as fast as it could possibly run. And still the panther screamed close by, and then Grandpa caught a glimpse of it as it leaped from treetop to treetop, almost overhead. It was a huge black panther leaping through the air like Black Susan leaping on a mouse. It was many, many times bigger than Black Susan. It was so big that if it leaped on Grandpa, it would kill him with its enormous slashing claws and its long, sharp teeth. So Grandpa on his horse was running away from it just as fast as a mouse runs from a cat. The panther didn't scream anymore. Grandpa did not see it anymore, but he knew it was coming, leaping after him in the dark woods behind him. And the horse ran with all of its might. And at last, the horse ran up to Grandpa's house. And here we see, oh my goodness, there's the panther, and there's Grandpa on the horse, and there's the panther leaping. And Grandpa jumped off the horse against the door. He burst through the door and slammed it behind him, leaving the horse outside. And the panther landed on the horse's back, just where Grandpa had been. And the horse screamed terribly, and it ran. And it was running in the big woods with the panther riding on its back and ripping his back with his claws. But Grandpa grabbed his gun from the wall, and he got out to the window just in time to shoot the panther dead. And Grandpa said he would never again go into the big woods without his gun. And when Pa told this story, Laura and Mary shivered, and they snuggled closer to him with his big, strong arms around them. They liked to be there before the warm fire, with Black Susan purring on the bench, and the good dog Jack stretched out beside her. And then, when they heard a wolf howl, "Oh!" Jack's head lifted, and the hairs rose stiff on his back. But Laura and Mary listened to that lonely sound in the dark and the cold of the big woods. They were not afraid. They were cozy, and they were comfortable in their little house made of logs, with the snow drifted around it and the wind crying because it could not get in by the fire. Chapter 3 is called The Long Rifle, And I think we can tell why it's called a long rifle, because that is a long rifle. You know what? My great-grandfather, who would have been your great-great-great-grandfather, had a long rifle like that. I wish I still had it. Every evening before he began to tell stories, Pa made the bullets for his next day hunting, and Laura and Mary helped him. They brought the big long-handled spoon and a box full of bits of lead and the bullet mold. Then, while he squatted on the hearth and made the bullets, they sat one on each side of him and they watched. First, he melted the bits of lead in the big spoon by holding it over the coals of the fire. And when the lead was melted, he poured it carefully from the spoon into the little hole in the bullet mold. He waited a minute, and then he opened the mold, and out dropped a bright new bullet onto the hearth. The bullet was too hot to touch, but it shone so temptingly that sometimes Mary or Laura could not help touching it, and then they burned their fingers, but they did not say anything, because Pa had told them to never touch a new bullet. If they burned their fingers, that was their own fault. They should have minded him. So they put their fingers in their mouth to cool them and watched Pa make more bullets. And there would be a shining pile of them on the hearth before Pa stopped. And then he let them cool, and with his jackknife he trimmed off the little lumps left by the hole in the mold. And he gathered up the tiny shavings of lead, and he saved them carefully to melt again the next time he made bullets. And the finished bullets he put into his bullet pouch. There was a little bag which Ma had made beautifully of buckskin from a buck deer that Pa had shot. And I think we can see it in that picture. I think it's that one right there. After the bullets were made, Pa would take his gun down from the wall and he would clean it. And out in the snowy woods all day, it might have gathered a little bit of dampness, and the inside of the barrel was sure to be dirty from powder smoke. So Pa would take the ramrod, and ramrod he cleans the inside of the rifle, and he would fasten a piece of clean cloth on its end, and he stood the butt of the rifle in a pan on the hearth, and he poured boiling water from the tea kettle into the gun barrel, and then quickly he dropped the ramrod in and rubbed it up and down and up and down and up and down, while the hot water blackened with powder smoke spurted out through the little hole in which the cap was placed when the gun was loaded. And Pa kept pouring in more water and washing that gun barrel with the cloth on the ramrod until the water ran out clear. And then the gun was clean. And the water must always be boiling so that the heated steel would dry instantly. And when we read next time, we're going to read a little bit more about Pa and his rifle. There's the last picture I'll show you today. There's Pa with his girls. I love you, and until next time in Grandma's Story Room.